there are times in your belief that you think what you innovate sometimes has far better value if it's distributed globally for everybody to utilize. We felt a technology that we had brought, it really better served the entire globe than for somebody trying to make money into it, because that's how we got 4 billion people around the globe connected. So I really felt very good then, and I still feel even better now, because you shouldn't measure yourself by the number of the zeros in your bank, but you should measure yourself with how many humans are now using that technology effectively.
Top leaders, meaningful conversation, actionable advice, bulldoze complacency, ignite inspiration, create impact. Produced by Southwestern family of companies. This is the Action Catalyst.
Rouzbeh Yassini-Fard, known as the father of the cable modem, is a tech entrepreneur, a philanthropist who supports innovation and creativity, and his book, The Accidental Network, tells the story of how his startup, Land City, defied the odds, rewired an entire industry, and helped give birth to broadband that we take for granted now. So, Rouzbeh, thank you so much for joining us. Can't wait to dive in.
Thank you so much. Yes.
You know, you're widely known as the father of the cable modem, but what exactly are we talking about when we say that? What specifically is the cable modem and its function, and what existed before that?
Thank you so much for your question. If you go back by early 1980s, your audiences would remember beeps and the burps of when you connect a phone modem in order to have computer connectivity. That was the methodology we used from a remote location to get to the computer. As such, you had to have a phone line and a phone modem and a dialer numbers. The AOL methodology was a very good model. So up to now, the computer connectivity was via the phone modems. The reason I was called the father of the cable modem by CD magazine, which is Communication Engineering and Design magazine, 1999, was because of the vision I came up with earlier in my careers in 1987. By then, I was lucky enough to have two solid experience. One, about the televisions and cable television, working with General Electric, understanding how TV signal works and how people receive their favorite programming on TV. And the other one was the computer networking to see how the corporates are connecting people who come to a place called workplace together. And by 1987, I asked myself, why shouldn't we have one cable instead of two separate cables in order to be able to have people connected from the home? Why should we come to the place called the workplace connected to our computer to a network? At that time, of course, was a funny matter. Everybody was laughing at it. And the idea was that there is no such a device. There is no such a cable that can work both for the data networking and TV signal. And I said, well, based on my background, the cable TV does a very good job with the TV distribution, as well as the data networking for the computer works very well. I bet you we can make the data, voice, and video works over coax, which was the media the cable TV was using. That idea of 1987 led to the innovation and creation of the cable modems by 1996 on the 4 different stages, and then become to be global standard by 1999. So I got the label of the father of the cable modem for babysitting an idea from 1987 to 1999 with my team of the excellent engineering group to be able to develop such a product that now allows you to be on the network all the time from a place like your home and with your everyday communication.
And we understand that some good homemade Persian food had a hand in making that all happen.
You're so kind to remember that part of the book. Yes, indeed. Before Silicon Valley was Silicon Valley, and companies providing food for the employees, and we already had that in a place in our little company called Land City. Thanks to Mom, was able to get some good Persian cooked brought into the office all the times, and the people would naturally stay to work from first shift to the second shift, and sometimes to the third shift in order to meet the deadline we had. We were a small group of entrepreneurs that believe in our vision, and nobody else believed what we can accomplish, the dream that we had. So the Persian food was a touch on that.
When people hear the term broadband, that's something that we're very used to hearing nowadays, so much to the point where it's just kind of always been there. A lot of people might not really know what that refers to. Can you just explain kind of what broadband is, what that really means?
Think about your life this way. Everything you do in a given day is ambient and works by itself. So you don't do anything specifically to turn your computers on, to connect your computer to other devices or so on. Broadband is always on, highest speed connectivity. Always on basically means when you turn your computer on and you're working with that, you're automatically connected to the entire network of the computing devices and sources in the world. So a broadband is a digital highway that is always on, always connected, always available, all the resources at highest speed, where you would not differentiate, oh, can I receive this content? Can I receive that video? Can I receive this type of a file? In fact, the reality tells you that with the broadband and always on, you are part of the ingredients of the data networking around the globe, and you have access to anything, anytime, anywhere. That is your life. Now, think about yourself this morning. You got up this morning, you probably touched broadband 4 or 5 different ways without even knowing you were touching it, or you had to do a special connection. You might have talked with your parents. You might have been able to do your banking. You might watch a little video. You might have seen some news, or more importantly, you might have an interactive meeting with a number of the people. All those are using now broadband infrastructure without even knowing it.
Obviously, now it's like you said, in everything. When these technological innovations were first made back in the 80s and 90s, how did that creation impact consumers, the economy, and Silicon Valley at that time? What was kind of the immediate impact closer to the beginning?
So let's take them one at a time. This is a very excellent question because impact humanity at its best. How did it impact consumers? Consumers, as the word indicates, to be consumed, receiving at home, but only consuming information. They were never a producer. They never could create. You're creating these podcasts from your place, so you are not a producer. Doctors can look at an X-ray. A variety of the teaching can be done in that nature. So what broadband did to consumer made the consumer to be producer at the same time, not just consuming information, but you also could contribute and be able to provide number of influencers in social media and so on and so forth. That's one. Now let's look at the Silicon Valley. Almost every corporation in Silicon Valley, or for that matter, Austin, Texas, or Boston, needed to have a always-on broadband infrastructures in order their social media networking or the services that they provide to work, all the way from our friend in Ubers, all the way from our friends in Facebooks and so on and so forth, to the Netflix. Those companies would have not been able to really take advantage of the dial-up and provide the type of services they do. So the Silicon Valley got its life by having an information highway, which was empowered by the broadband. Now let's bring those Silicon Valley companies and the producer together. All of a sudden, we have built this global economy now as a result, because now you have a toolbox. Your toolbox is beautiful software services made by all the corporation innovators around the world and Silicon Valley and other places. Then you have the producer and consumers now taking advantage of this toolbox. And as a result, everything comes together and now you have a global economy. You also have a global infrastructures where companies and countries are talking together daily, where the languages are translated live for the people at the same time. A good example is on this one. If you really consider going back about 30 years ago, 40 years ago, we could not even imagine to be able to learn and distribute the knowledge within the seconds globally. The individual would come to the Western countries, educated, get some lesson, and then 20 years later, they go back to the home country to be able to contribute something. Now, you'll instantly be able to do that. Here in the Mass General, for example, we can see the doctors who get an X-ray at the nighttime because of an accident, and the professional might not be able to look at that X-ray. But back in Australia, it's the daytime, and that doctor can look at that X-ray and provide comments and a feedback to the emergency room in a Mass General, that's what that are. So we really have 7 by 24 global economy all in power now because of it.
You say something really interesting in the book, which is that you say along the way here, an entire industry lost and then rediscovered its purpose and its momentum. What do you mean by that?
I'm glad that you're bringing that up. Cable infrastructure was all known for TV distribution only before. That basically means get the video content and bring us to the living rooms of the people and appear. And the TV was positioned for one-way communication. You sit in your sofa, you have your potato chips in your hand, and you watch programming and TV. That was it. We used to call them couch potato, if you remember. So what happened is this, that the power of the cable TV, the infrastructure they put in place was so powerful, but only being marginally used. And as the video become to be less important and time goes on, you will find out that cable industry, because of regulation from one side and the cost on the other side, was becoming to be irrelevant to the people, just to be a distribution of the TV programming. So at that time, when we injected the data delivery through the cable infrastructure, it actually gave the cable industry the second life, where it became to be, instead of a TV programming distributor, a telecommunication pipe. In fact, in 2022, the revenue that cable industries was receiving from high-speed data and a broadband was more than the revenue they were getting from distribution of the video signal. So what had happened was a transformation of cable industry from being a video-only system to a telecommunication system, where you really don't mind if it's a voice, if it's a data, if it's a video. Everything was coming together very nicely to be able to provide that content to the consumer. So the consumer now is extremely happy because they have one pipe, and that pipe's delivered to them the contents, their video, their voice, their data. They do their banking, watch any programming they want at any given time, and also do the healthcare, do education, and do more that we have never been enabled to do. So that's the transformation we saw from cable industry becoming to be a telecommunication pipe.
Now, typically when we think of companies that launch big ideas, big products, there's often private investment, there's venture capital, there's corporate interests. In your case, government entities actually played a big role. Can you explain how?
I'm glad that you bring in this one up, because the standard venture-based companies are created based on external financing from VCs, known as the venture capitalists, and they invest in the company to go on. We were so early with our technology in order to be able to provide the broadband that most venture capitalists didn't want to take that risk. A, because they didn't believe in cable industry. B, they never believed that we could actually put data over a cable system. What happened, which most Americans don't really appreciate, the government has done a very nice job to be able to be moving some of this technology well in advance. It happens in the middle of the Mississippi River. There's this place called Rock Island Arsenal. It's actually a little island in the Mississippi River where they do for the military works. And they had chosen in early 80s to use the cable TV as the infrastructures for their computer connectivity, voice connectivity, and data connectivity. So we were able to actually work with them and provide our technology to them, and make sure the connectivity between the mainframe computer at that time, as well as the personal computers and others, to work for the global services they had to provide. That private company, Mine, Land City, and that public infrastructure, Rock Island Arsenal Military, working together over the cable TV infrastructure, help us to mature the product, bring the cost of the product down, and also be able to add the network management and tools that is necessary to have a large scale 100 million, 200 million, 300 million customers working together. So I love the private-public relationship that we had at the time, and the government really should be credited with the taxpayer money that they actually were much earlier than anybody else to use the cable infrastructure as a telecommunication pipe. And my Land City company happened to be the beneficiary of that type of a private-public company. And I'm very proud of that, because that really shows to us Americans that private company, public company working together, we can actually do better things for humanity. Guess what? Today, everybody's using broadband for all the good things they are doing because of that type of relationship that we had in late 1980s.
And speaking of that, usually after creating groundbreaking technology, people profit off of it, or people, really hold the technology close. You decided to distribute it to the broader industry, free of royalties.
There are times in your belief that you think what you innovate sometimes has far better value if it's distributed globally for everybody to utilize. And I still remember that moment very effectively, that why we decided to be able to do that, because we felt a technology that we had brought from $18,000 per cable modem to less than $30 per cable modems, it really better served the entire globe than for somebody trying to make money into it. We decided that if we make our technology global standard, everybody will be connected faster, cheaper, and seamlessly, and all the connection will work exactly the same, where the interoperability and connectivity among all the peoples around the world would become to be seamless. So it really made perfect sense for that technology to be gifted to the cable industry with the royalty free, and then becomes to be global standard, because that's how we got 4 billion people around the globe connected. And now, if I would have not distributed my technology royalty free, would that happen? Of course, but it would have taken much longer time and would have taken a lot more efforts to be able to do so. So we expedited the process. And if you go backward to year 2020 with the unfortunate COVID solution problem that we face, think about that. What was the role that broadband played? Everybody was connected from any part of the world. So our foresight really worked very well. And when a natural disaster like COVID showed up, the broadband was our rescue factors for the global humanity, global economic, and global connectivity. So I really felt very good then, and I still feel even better now. Because you shouldn't measure yourself by the number of the zeros in your bank, but you should measure yourself with how many humans are now using that technology effectively.
You mentioned two secret superpowers for success, which are determination and diligence.
Yeah, so I'd like to take a step back on this one and think about it. How many people told us this would never work? How many people told us there's no way you can bring this half-a-size refrigerator device to a small size that can fit in the people's home? There were people who said there's no way you can put a cable infrastructure in the middle of that. In fact, some people were referring in the universities to the cable system as a sewer pipe, that a good thing goes in it and bad thing comes out of it. So the two awards that you are referring to was really the fuel behind my team. We believed in one thing: should the data over cable TV work? Yes or no? And we have accepted it should, yes. So we kept peeling the onion layer by layer, solving their problem, solving the issue, technically, marketing-wise, business-wise, and we were able to really accomplish our goal. If we didn't have that determination, we would have given up the ideas and the hope that these vision we had back in 87 would ever work. So in summary, they were really the guiding factor for us to stay in the track and keep on going until we get to the objective that we had, which was really a ubiquitous cable modem connectivities, now called broadband services, everywhere at any given time.
For a lot of entrepreneurs, after having a great and groundbreaking success like yours, it's difficult for them to maintain momentum. How do you keep yourself motivated and constantly innovating?
My motivation has always been the stuff that I'm innovating. Does it help humanity? Most venture capitalists and venture companies and founders like to say, can I make money? I have never been motivated with the money. Yet I'm a good capitalist at the same time. If I really work hard and create something, I think it should be a reward on that, because that's the best system we have in the world and works very productive for everybody. So my innovation has always been around whatever I innovate, it needs to help the humanity and it needs to make the planet Earth a better place than what we found it before. As such, that has been my way of growing my company at Lion City and all the other companies that I have founded after that. But the other side of the issue also is on the startup company is that how well can you really focus on new technology and new innovation? Or always try to focus on existing problem. Means find a problem that needs a solution, whereas go design something and innovate something, then try to see what fits in order to do that. So the combination of focusing on solving a problem and also focusing on making sure what I'm doing helps humanity has been the guiding factors for me and has helped me tremendously in my last 20 plus years to be able to innovate more company after we did the cable modem technology. What am I working now? I really believe the elderlies that are staying at home with their loved one have a far better chance to enjoy life, and the sunset of their life becomes to be a more powerful by being near their loved one and their home and be able to have the children, the grandchildren around them. So using the broadband infrastructures, working with a number of medical doctors, I'm working around the technology to be able to see how we can provide the quality of a life and the details of the healthcare information that elderly can share with their doctors and nurses outside to be able to monitor them just as they were in the hospital or just as they were in the nursing home. This allows the elderly to stay home longer, live better, have better quality of life, and then we will be able to monitor them effectively and openly and dynamically to be able to provide them a better assistance and a better input. For example, with using the technology, you could almost predict the mobility of elder person at home. Is the mobility of that person requires to do something different for them. So we will be able to manage that, and before the person falls down and break a leg or arm, you could actually prevent those elements of happening. So healthcare at home for elderly is my next passion that I'm pursuing right now. And I think that's a very good way of to be able to appreciate our elderlies, to be around the grandchildren and enjoy their life at the environments that they have at home.
You know, our audience is made up of entrepreneurs and inventors and small business owners, and they're all listening to you talk about motivation and impact and determination. If they're stuck in a rut or if they're working on their first big thing, what would be a piece of advice you would give to them, something they can do today, literally today? What's the next step they should make? Where should they start?
You know, that's very interesting because it impacts every one of us. So I think the number one for any entrepreneurs today that can make an impact for them is to make sure they believe in what they are developing first internally. If they believe in that, number one, then make sure that it fits in the problem that exists. And if it fits in the problem and they believe on it, then they should make sure to work in environments to be able to prove to their consumers or their customer base that this thing does do something good for them. And if they focus on those three elements, you will see that the product will start doing the talking, whereas a PowerPoint presentation or some marketing advertising about it. So my advice to them is make sure as fast as you can, let the product does the talking for you and let the product speak on the value and the benefit that brings for the consumer. That will do a great job for any entrepreneur to be able to move forward faster.
That's very good advice. So where can our listeners get a copy of the book and where can they connect with you?
Of course. So the Amazon.com, just look for The Accidental Network in Amazon and they should be able to get the book through that distribution system. There's other wide distribution as well, like a Walmart, that you can also get the book ordered through their website. And most importantly about the book is, the book really does two good things. From one hand says how we believe in ourselves and how we transform industry to be the broadband pillar of the society. And the other one says how a small group of the people are able to make that change without external financing, which I think it brings to value to the entrepreneurs and the industry, that as long as you believe in your vision and your technology, keep on going and deliver what the product should do. And the best is yet to come.
Fantastic. Well, look, Rouzbeh, thank you so much for making some time for us today. We've really learned a lot.
But thank you so much. I really appreciate the time you have given me. Thank you so much.
If you enjoy this podcast, please make sure to subscribe. And to stay updated on everything that the Action Catalyst is up to, make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Action Catalyst Podcast and on Twitter at Catalyst_Action. And thanks for listening.